Okay, class, today we're going to go back to the idea of graphing lines. Our lesson today, 10-7, is graphing linear equations. Okay, and again, when we graph lines, our linear equations have two variables. Now, if you look at this equation that I just pulled out, if you remember, that's in standard form. Whenever we graph a linear inequality, it needs to be in slope-intercept form. So the first thing we need to do here is we need to rearrange the furniture so we can get y alone. So if you look here, then we've got negative y equals, we subtract 2x to the other side minus 4. Remember, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. So we have to get y alone. Now, if you notice, we have a problem here. We've got a negative in front of our y. So to get rid of that, we're going to divide everything by -1, which just goes through and switches everybody's sign. So if you look here, now that's my line. Now, if you remember, when we graphed these back in chapter 7, if it's in slope-intercept form, whatever's in front of x is my slope. So m equals 2, and then the constant on the end is my y-intercept, and that is 4. So when we graph these, we would plot our y-intercept first. We need to go to where 4 is on the y-axis, y-intercept y-axis, and then our slope is 2. Now remember, we've got to make our slope a rise over the run, so we're going to go up 2, rise 2, right 1. And then I would just connect the dots and graph my line. So connect the dots and graph my line. All right, now what would happen if I decided to change this? We graphed our solution. If we decided to change it to an inequality? Well, when we have a linear inequality, that line that I just drew separates that grid, that coordinate plane, into two parts, two half planes. Now we have to figure out which side of that graph is the solution set. Okay, which side, if I pick a point in that side, would actually give me solutions. So how we do that is we pick a test point. Now, I'm going to pick a test point that gives me really easy math. And I pick the same test point every time. I pick 0, 0. Now I like to go over here and put x here. X marks the spot on my test point. Now what we're going to do is we're going to plug in 0 for x and 0 for y. So if you look here, we've got 0 for y is greater than equal to 2 times 0 for x plus 4. So we've got 0 is greater than equal to 4. Now, my question to you, is that true or is that false? Well, we know that's a false statement. So if it's a false statement, instead of coloring x marks the spot, we want to go over and flip and color in the other side. So what I'm telling you here when I color in the side with blue is that that's the side of the line that has all the solutions. I could pick any point on that side. Let's say I picked here 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's pick -4, 2. If I picked -4, 2, and I plug those into my original equation, we've got 2 is greater than equal to 2 -4. And this is going to give me -8 plus 4. So we've got 2 is greater than or equal to -4, and that's a true statement. So that test point helps me decide which side of the line is the solution set, and we just shade it in. So when we're graphing linear inequalities, we always shade one side or the other of the line for me to get my answer. Now I want to show you something. As we go through here, if I go to my y-intercept on my y-axis, if you notice, if I go up from this point, my y's are getting larger, and that's the side that is graphed, okay? And then if I go down, my y's are getting smaller, and so that's going to be y is less than. So we're going to look at that idea in a little bit. Let's try a few more. Now, if you're looking at this equation, we've got y is less than 3. Now, if you notice, there's no m in here. There's no x, and so that means that m has to be 0, and our y-intercept is 3. Now, if you remember from chapter 7, anytime I have y only, that's going to give me a horizontal line. So we're going to go to where y equals 3 and write a horizontal line. And this time, we're going to make it a dotted line. Now, we're making it a dotted line because it's only y is less than. You notice I don't have that equal to sign at the bottom. And if we're going to choose 0, 0 as our test point, okay, because that's the point I always choose, well, we're only going to have to plug in the 0 for y. So we've got 0 is less than 3. Is that true statement or false statement? Okay, that's true. So X marks the spot down here. So that means we're going to shade under the line. We're going to shade under the line where I can cover the test point. All right, let's look at the next problem here. When I look at this problem, we're going to see that it's already in slope-intercept form. Again, when we're graphing linear inequalities, we need it in slope-intercept form. Y has to be alone. So the first thing I need to do then is I just need to graph this line. Well, if I look, my slope is -1. Remember, slope's what's in front of x. My y-intercept is 2. So I'm going to go to my grid, and I'm going to put a big, fat, juicy dot on the y axis at 2. My slope is -1 this time, so I'm going to go down 1, right 1. Am I going to have a solid line or a dotted line this time? Right, we're going to have a solid, we're going to have a dotted line this time. So if I go through here, and I write my dotted line in, there's my dotted line, and now we've got to figure out our test point. Well, as usual, I'm going to use an easy point that'll give me easy math. So we're going to use 0, 0. X marks the spot. And so if I go over here then, we're going to plug in 0 for y is greater than 2. Is that true or false? Well, once again, that is false. The big fat side is not by the big fat number. So we're going to go ahead and we are going to color in the side, okay, that is opposite. Color in the side that is opposite the X marks the spot because it was false. So we color it in. Now remember, that shows me which side of the graph, which side of the line will give me a positive solution. So the test question might say, is 4, 3 a solution to this graph? And you would go over here and you would look at 4, 3, and that's inside the yellow zone, it's inside the color, so you would say yes, 4, 3 is a solution. The test question may say, how about -6? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. -6, -3. Is -6, -3 a solution? And you would have to say no because it's not in the color zone. All right, now, sometimes we're going to have to rearrange the furniture to get our line in slope-intercept form. If you look here, we need to get y alone, so that means we're going to subtract 2x to the other side. Now we know our slope is -2. Our y-intercept is -2. And so when I go to graph that, we're at -2, y-intercept, y-axis. Slope is -2, down 2, right 1. Are we going to have a solid line or a dotted line this time? Yep, we're going to have a dotted line. So we go ahead and put our dotted line in. Hopefully yours is a little straighter than mine. Now, X marks the spot for our test point. So if my test point is 0, 0, let's plug it in. We've got 0 greater than -2. Oh, this time the answer is yes. We got a true statement. So since it's true, this time we're going to go ahead and we're going to shade in and cover the test point. We're going to cover the test point because we got a true statement. So that's why I put X marks the spot. If it's true, I cover X. And if it's false, I flip to the other side. Very nicely done. Okay, if you're looking at question 19 now, once again, we're not in the right form. Again, for me to graph a linear inequality, it's got to be in slope-intercept form. So here I go. I'm going to rearrange the furniture. Negative 3y is greater than equal to negative 2x plus 6. We're going to have to divide everything by negative 3. Ooh, we divided by a negative number, so we still have to remember to flip. And so we've got 2/3 x minus 2. All right, hopefully you've got the game plan by now. We're going to go down here to negative 2 for my y-intercept. Slope is positive 2/3, so we're going to go up 2, right 3. This time, because we've got greater than or equal to, if you notice, we're going to do a solid line. So let me go ahead and draw my solid line through there. And now we just need to do our test point. And again, 0, 0 is always my test point. So when I plug it in, what happens? We've got 0, negative 2. And again, that's going to be false. So we're not going to cover X marks the spot. We're going to flip over to the other side. So we're going to color down here this time. All right, very nicely done. Okay, one slide left. Once again, we've got to get this into slope-intercept form. These last few slides have just been for you to practice to rearrange and make sure that you get your equation into y-intercept form. Well, I need the y's out in front anyway so I can graph correctly. So let's do that. 2y minus 6. And now we've got to add 6. So we've got 2y is less than 2x plus 6. And one more move and we'll finally get y alone. Y is less than x plus 3. Okay, so my y-intercept is 3. Y-intercept on the y-axis. My slope is positive 1, up 1, right 1. We're going to go ahead and draw our line between the points. It's going to be solid or dotted. It's going to be dotted this time. I'm going to have a dotted line. See if I can do a little bit better, straighter job. There's my solid. My dotted line. And then X marks the spot. Is 0 less than 3? Sure is. So we're going to cover X marks the spot this time. And we're going to color down here. Okay, so when we're graphing a linear inequality, remember, shading is required. You've got to show me which side of that line is the solution set. And how we figure that out is by always using a test point. And our test point is going to be 0, 0.